Hey everyone, welcome back to another video on my channel. In this video, I will go over the steps required to perform email migration from one Exchange Online organization to another via a third-party tool called BitTitan. Alright, so let's get into it. The first task is to register for BitTitan by clicking on Register for Free. You would then need to enter your details like first name, last name, email address, phone number and country, and then click Create Account. Once done, you will receive an email from this email address, which is bittitansupport@bittitan.com, which will contain a link to create a password and verify email address. So this is the screen you will see after logging in for the very first time, and from here you will need to create project. So we have different options to choose from depending upon what type of migration you are going to perform. So to perform tenant to tenant migration, we have to click mailbox project and then type a meaningful name for the project. So let me just type tenant to tenant migration. And now I will have to create a new customer. So typically it's going to be your organization's details, like your primary email domain, the organization name, location, city, and the company size, etc. So let me just save it. In here I have to define the source endpoint. So let me click new, then type a meaningful name for the source endpoint and select the endpoint type, which is going to be Microsoft 365. So in here we have to enter the credentials. So either I can use domain admin credentials or I can create a new service account which will have impersonation permissions. So by default, impersonation permission role is not added to any role group. So I'll create a new role group. So I'm going to call it impersonation permissions and then hit next. I'll select the role which is application impersonation, and then here I need to enter the name or email address of the service account which is going to have this permission. Alright, so now I'll go back to Migration Viz. So here I'll enter the credentials of domain admin. So you can either use domain admin or the service account that you just granted permissions to. Alright, let me hit next step. Similarly, I have to define the destination endpoint. So let me put the destination details here. And then the endpoint type is going to be the same, which is Microsoft 365, and I'll enter the domain admin credentials. Once done, I'll hit add. So in here you can define whether you would like to have tenant to tenant coexistence in place. So coexistence allows users to view FreeBSD of each other. However, you need to keep in mind that to use coexistence, you have to have user migration bundle license with you. Alright, so now I'll save project. In here, you can define how you would like to import users to the project. You can either go with quick add, which will then let you add one by one, or you can select bulk add, which will let you import a CSV sheet of users, or you can select auto discover. So let me just show you what really happens if you go with bulk add. So we can enter the details here like source email, source logon name, password, destination email, and so on. Let me go back and add a single user by clicking quick add. In case your end goal is to migrate the domain as well, then you would need to enter the .on Microsoft domain for both source and destination. Let me click save item and close. Now we can see one user in the migration project. Our next step is to register an app for both source and destination tenant, and I'm logged in to the source Azure AD. So you just click on app registration, then new registration, enter a meaningful name for the application, and then select second option, which is multi-tenant from the supported account types. Now under redirect URI, we have to select public client, which is the first option in the drop down, and then paste this value. Once done, we can then click register. So we have to make a note of application ID as well as tenant ID because we'll need that later in the process. And once done, we can then click on authentication. Now scroll down to the bottom, and then you would click on the last option, which is allow public client flows, and just toggle it to yes. Save it, and then click API permissions below token configuration. Click add a permission. Choose API my organization uses. Now look for Office 365 Exchange. Click delegated permissions. Now look for AWS and expand it, and mark a check mark on AWS access as url.all. Keep in mind, this permission only allows OAuth app to be associated with AWS, and it does not grant access to the mailbox data. Now hit add permission, and then click grant admin consent for the organization name. Now you have to follow the same process on the destination tenant as well. Alright, now let me switch back to Migration Viz, and then click on this pencil icon to edit the migration project, and then advanced options. So in here, I have to put the application ID as well as the tenant ID for both source and destination tenant. So let me just copy paste. So the format has to be same, which is modern auth client export. So this client ID export is the application ID, and then the tenant ID is obviously the tenant ID. So where it says export, it belongs to the source tenant, and where it says import, the information belongs to the destination tenant. You can also configure other options like performance, notifications, and so on if required. Under performance, you can define the data center location as well as the concurrent migrations. In notifications, you can put the email addresses of users who are going to receive notifications related to migration. And under filtering, you can filter data based on date or by folders. And then if I talk about source and destination, you can choose whether you would like to migrate data from the primary mailbox or from the recoverable items folder. Once you are done with all the changes here, you can simply click Save down at the bottom. Alright, so now I'll just perform credentials verification. This step ensures that MigrationWiz can connect to both source and destination tenant. So let's just wait for some time. Alright, now we can see under status it says completed verification. That means now we are ready with pre-stage migration. And we have also received an email about the same, that your credential pass was successful. Alright, let me switch back to MigrationWiz. Alright, so due to privacy reasons, I had to blur some of the information. Let me open the migration project, and now I'll just choose one of the users and assign the license, which is going to be user migration bundle. It may take few seconds to load. Alright, let me hit apply. Okay, so as of now it shows user migration bundle active to no. Let's just wait for a few seconds. Alright, now the status has been changed to yes. So now I'll start with pre-stage migration. I'll simply select the user and then click on the fourth icon and then click pre-stage migration. So pre-stage migration is sort of preparation for the final migration. During pre-stage, you can define how old data you would like to migrate. It's a good idea to migrate anything older than 30 days so that during migration it won't take much time to perform migration, as the majority of data would be already at the destination mailbox. So you can also define if you would like to migrate Teams private chats or not. And then from the drop down you can select specific time and then choose a time that you would like to migrate data anything older from. So let's say I would like to migrate anything older than August 25th, 2022. And then I'll click Start Migration. Alright, so the pre-stage migration request has been submitted. After waiting for about 20 minutes, I can see nearly 350 megabytes of data has been migrated. We can further see what all folders have been migrated. So this is the complete list of folders. Let me go back. So I paused the video for a day, and the next day I can see that nearly 30 gigs has been migrated. And it also shows what all folders have been migrated. So roughly it migrates nearly 1 gig of data per hour per mailbox. And if I scroll down, I can further see more stats, like how much data was migrated and how many items were migrated at a specific time, and what was the transfer speed, etc. So let me go back. Alright, so I will have to pause this video again, and I'll resume once the entire pre-stage is completed. Alright, so after waiting for nearly another few hours, I can see the pre-stage migration has been completed and it migrated nearly 41 gigs of data. So this is how you perform pre-stage migration on MigrationWiz. And once you are done with verifying the domain and changing the MX to the destination tenant, you can then click full migration. And if you come across any errors, then you can select retry errors from the drop-down, as we can see on the screen. Alright, I hope you now have a fair bit of understanding on how to use MigrationWiz to perform tenant to tenant migration. I hope you find this video helpful, and if you do, please subscribe to my channel and share the video with your friends. As always, thank you and bye for now.